Hello Zero Wasters and welcome back. Let me ask you, have you ever ended up with so many small pieces of soap you just don't know what to do with? I certainly have. I usually would try to stick them on top of an old soap to give them a new life. Another option I did try but I'm not a huge fan of is collecting all the different bits into a rummy bag. Although this does work in getting all the lather through the net of the bag, I find it to be way too exfoliating for me. So if you have the same problem or are looking for an alternative, you'd be surprised to see how easy it is to remelt soap scraps into a brand new soap bar. Now this works best if you have soap scraps that are easy enough to grate. If your scraps are super small, you can still melt them, but your bar will end up a bit chunkier. In fact, the smaller the soap flakes, the easier they will melt and the more even and compact your final soap bar will be. In terms of tools, you will just need a cheese grater, a bowl, a mold that can fit the amount you're melting, and a saucepan to melt everything down. Start by grating your soap flakes. Make sure that the soap bits you're using are really dry and hard. If they are a bit wet and gooey, it'll be impossible to grate them, so if yours are still shower wet, let them air dry for a couple of days before grating them. Next, simply add all of your grated soap into a saucepan and pour some water in. The purpose of adding water is solely to avoid the soap from burning and sticking onto the saucepan. Therefore, you really do not need lots of water. Remember, all the water you add in will need to evaporate out. So if you add too much water, the soap will be soft and mushy and never really set. Turn the heat on and keep it at very low heat. Continue mixing and never leave the saucepan unattended. Especially if it's a small quantity, the soap will melt really fast. Mine didn't take more than 1 or 2 minutes. Once completely melted and looking like this, remove it from the heat and add any optional essential oil or fragrance. I suggest to do this only if your soap was unscented or so old that the scent was completely gone. Mix well and press the mix into the mold. Be careful as it may still be a little hot. You can let the bar set overnight, but I was very impatient, so I popped the mold into the freezer for about an hour and unmolded it as soon as it was not frozen wet anymore. And this is the result, a perfectly compact bar of soap with a nice mix of lots of nourishing oils from different soap bars that you have saved from becoming waste. You can use this soap straight away, but if you manage to wait for a few days, maybe a week, it'll dry up a bit more, lose any excess water and therefore last for longer. I really hope you've enjoyed this recipe and found it useful. Let me know, have you ever tried giving your soap scraps a new life? What do you think about this method? Until then, I will see you in the next recipe. Take care.